Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to our webinar on textile sustainability, news from Finland and Sweden. My name is Lisa Strengschmidt, and I am the Deputy Head of Advantage Austria Stockholm, and I'm the Austrian Commercial Attaché for the Nordic countries. Our team of Advantage Austria here in the Nordics is spread over 4 offices in Stockholm, Helsinki, Oslo, and Copenhagen, and this webinar right now is a co-production of our offices in Stockholm and Helsinki. Today, we are going to present to you new sustainable developments in the textile industries of Sweden and Finland. And we are very happy to host this webinar today, as Sweden and Finland are among the world's pioneers and trailblazers when it comes to sustainable innovation in the textile industries. Innovative approaches come just at the right time because the linear economic model, in the sense of take, make, and waste, is increasingly reaching its limits. So I will start with a short organizational announcement before I hand over to the first speaker. So this is a live webinar, so please bear with us if there are any problems that we might encounter. Of course, we have carefully, intensively prepared this webinar, but still, as it is live, there might be could be some technical issues, so just be patient if this is the case and bear with us. We will also make available the presentations to you after the webinar, and you have also the possibility to ask your questions to our speakers today in the chat function. So we are here in the GoToWebinar application, and on the right-hand side of your screen, you see the chat function where you can ask your questions. We will collect those questions and answer them all together at the end of this webinar. So let me quickly take you through the agenda of today. So we have 1.5 hours from now, 10 a.m. till 11:30, and it's quite a tight agenda. We will start with 2 projects from Sweden. Anna Wilén will start. Afterwards, Nora Estlander will continue to shed some light on current innovations in the textile industries of Sweden. Afterwards, we will hand over to our neighbors in Finland, where Pirjo and Oskari will present 2 projects from Finland to you today. So let's not lose any more time, but just dive right into the first presentation of today. And the first presentation today is from Anna Wilén. Anna, please join me on stage and turn on your camera. Anna works in the marketing and brand department of Sysaf, a waste-to-energy plant in Malmö in the south of Sweden. And Sysaf, together with partners, has taken the first step towards a circular flow of material. They call it Siptex, the world's first large-scale facility of its kind. Anna, please continue with the presentation, and the stage is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your interest in Siptex. And I will tell you about the Swedish innovation platform for textile sorting, which is now a research project, but also a fully functioning and commercially available facility in Malmö, Sweden. And I am speaking on both behalf of Sysaf and the IVL, Swedish Environmental Institute. Let me first give you a very brief introduction of the companies. So we are a waste company owned by 14 municipalities in southern Sweden. We handle close to 1 million tons of waste per year, and textile being our latest field of affairs. And we have made the investment in the facility. And the IVL, Swedish Environmental Research Institute, are leading the research part of this project. And the IVL is an independent research institute in the fields of sustainability. So if I first give you a bit of a background to the project, as you may know that textile has a heavy impact on climate and environment, and yet we have very low recycling rates. If we look at these numbers from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, you can see that 97% of the textile that is put on the market is virgin feedstock, and we only have a few percentages of recycling, and most of it being various kinds of downcycling, and not the fiber to fiber recycling that we need to scale up. And the IVL looked at the Swedish market, and we do need to create a new textile value chain in order to close the loops for the textile. In Swedish numbers, we have less than 5% of the textiles that are recycled, and most of it is incinerated. We incinerate about 200 tons of textile waste daily in Sweden, and this is what the project aimed to change. The textile manufacturers and the fashion brands have set quite ambitious targets sustainability-wise, part of that being an increased use of recycled textile fibers by 2025 or 2030. And the problem being that the high-quality recycling, the fiber to fiber, require a fiber purity that the manual sorting today cannot meet. And we still had no automatic sorting, and the IVL put the thesis that the automated textile sorting could be the link missing to be able to close the loops for textile waste. So if we look at the challenges from an industry point of view, we have the producers, being the fashion brands and so on, having a difficulty obtaining recycled material. And we have the collectors, being the NGOs, for example, who has an increasingly difficulty to obtain profitability for certain kinds of collected material. And the sorters, being the manual sorters, who can sell the material that is not suited for the secondhand market, is hard to sell. And from the recycler's point of view, the transition from industrial pre-consumer waste to the post-consumer waste places higher demands on the incoming material. It's hard to meet the standards of purity for the recycling processes to work. So the conclusion would be that automated sorting of textile waste would be the missing link in order to solve the problems and make this loop work. The producers would have access to large quantities of recycled textile fiber, and the collectors and sorted would have an increased profitability, and the recyclers would have access to the customized raw materials needed for the recycling processes to function. So Siptex is short for Swedish Innovation Platform for Textile Sorting. It is the world's first automated textile sorting facility at scale. It sorts textiles based on fiber composition and to some extent color, and aims to contribute to creating new markets for recycling products. And the facility sorts only for recycling. What we handle in the Siptex facility is textile waste that has been pre-sorted and by manual sorters, and all the secondhand material that is aiming for the reuse market have been removed. The project was initiated in January 2016, and the step 2 in 2018 was the testing of the technique on a a pilot plant placed in Avesta in Sweden, where the technique was tested on textiles. The technique is not new. It's been used on plastics, for example, for a long time, but never in scale on textiles. And the step 3 part of the research project is the building of the fully scaled facility that we currently have in Malmö. And this project was, as I said, coordinated by the IVL, and the investment was made by CISA. And this project has been involved actors from the entire textile value chain, because design, production, use, collection, sorting, and recyclers, all the steps must be involved in order to create the circular flows that is needed. And in the SIPTEX project, we have strong partners from the entire textile value chain, the authorities, the NGOs, the fashion brands, the recyclers have all been working very close together to form the business plan for this facility. So the SIPTEX is a new step in the textile value chain, where the material that has been incinerated will now move on to recyclers instead. And another way to put it, or to show it in a context of circular economy, is you can see that SIPTEX will increase the fiber to fiber recycling, so that post-consumer waste can move on back into production. This is what the facility looks like. It was put in operation in November 2020. And it has a capacity of 4.5 tons per hour, run 24/7. That would be 24,000 tons per year, roughly, which answers to about 1/3 of the textile waste that is thrown in the waste bin annually in Sweden. And we have 4 near these machines, that's near infrared light and visual spectroscopy. We have a couple of 100 meters of conveyor belts to make sure that the garments are evenly spread in order for the sorting to work. And we have it here in Malmö in Sweden. The technique, as I said, it's not new. It's been used on plastics and paper for a long time, but using it on textiles in large scale is completely new, and we are still unique with this. The near infrared light illuminates the fabric and creates a spectrum, which allows the sensor to tell exactly what fiber composition the garment is made of. And compressed air blows the selected textiles to a separate conveyor belt. And we have 3 of these machines that can be used to sort 3 different fractions at one time, and we use one of the NIRBIS machines as a purification step. So what we can produce is quality assured recycling products with a guaranteed fiber composition that are perfectly adapted for the next step in the chain, which is the recycling processes. So we can sort basically any fiber that our customers place order for, our top products being cotton and polyester. We're working on wool and acrylic as well. The products are called Refab. And this is what it looks like our final product. We don't do any shredding or dezippering or debuttoning. The facility sorts only. And as an outcome, 5 years after the project is completed, the Siptex will have contributed to increased circularity in the textile value chain. We will have secured supply of raw materials for textile producers and an extended automated sorted textile sorted capacity in Europe. Establishing functioning markets for recycling products, and established ecosystems of actors who use the recycled products, and also input to the instruments for a more circular textile cycles. Thank you very much for listening. That would be my presentation.
Thank you very much, Anna. That's been really interesting to hear. Also interesting to see that you have already a lot of Swedish partners, and maybe there's some potential for international partners as well, but we will come back to that in the Q&A session. So thank you for now for the very interesting presentation, and we'll see you in a short time again.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will now move on to our second panelist. Nora, please join me on stage. Hi, Nora. Nora is the head of communication at Renewcell, a textile-to-textile recycling company. And Renewcell has developed a new recycling technology, and the result you get out from it, you call it Circulose, but we will hear more from it from you now. So the stage is yours, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much for having me an introduction, and Anna for a really nice introduction to Siptex, which we work with, which is nice. My name is Nora Islander. I'm the head of communication at Renewcell, and I'm here today to talk a bit about what we do at Renewcell. Let's see if this works. Yeah, it does. So Renewcell, we're a textile recycling company, which means that we have a technology and a process for how to recycle cotton textiles into a new material. And the vision is really to close the loop on fashion, and also to inspire the rest of and other industries to move towards a circularity and inspire an industrial evolution where we reimagine and reuse what we already have instead of creating and extracting new resources. So a bit of background to why we do what we do, and Anna mentioned this as well. The fashion industry is facing huge issues in terms of sustainability. There's different issues depending on the materials that you use, but it all comes down to materials and how we produce, basically. There's a lot of water and land use, as you can see here in the picture. This is a picture of the Aral Sea, or it used to be the Aral Sea. Today it's only a desert, and it's due to the heavy cotton farming happening around the sea. There's other problems, of course, with looking at polyester, for example. It's a plastic. You extract oil to produce polyester clothing. Once they're in use, they release massive amounts of microplastic when you wash them in your washing machine. This goes out in the oceans, and it's really difficult to get microplastics out of there once they're in. So also a huge problem is the trees that were taken down to produce viscose. And on top of this mess, less than 1% of the clothes that we do use all these natural resources to produce are actually recycled, which means that they end up on landfill or they're incinerated. This is the problem that we're trying to solve, or be part of solving. As I mentioned, the industry has, for as long as it's existed, it's been a very linear industry where we extract the natural resources, we produce, and we use the clothes fewer and fewer times. I mean, today we're using them a couple of times before we decide to move on to another trend or another color or another pair of jeans, and we discard them, which means that there's this massive volume problem of textiles being exported, ending up on landfill or incinerated, releasing CO2. What we do instead is that we create this circular loop that has been missing. So we save the textile waste basically, and we bring it into our factories and we recycle it into a new material, which is then used to produce new clothes. In that way, we close the loop between the waste and the new production in a way where we're creating a circular, never-ending loop. And a bit of background to the technology that the company is founded on. It was developed back in 2012 at the Royal Institute of Technology here in Stockholm. And it started as a research project where a group of scientists developed a process for how to recycle the cellulose in cotton and in textiles. And they just, together with an entrepreneur who saw the potential of these massive volumes of textiles just lying there, they founded the company, and we had a couple of years of research development to really optimize the process. And what we do is that we take in the textile waste, so that could be everything from a pair of jeans, a t-shirt, to a production spill, anything really that has a high cotton value. And we shred the material and it goes into a chemical step. And it's this pulping and chemical step that's unique for our technology. And part of the process is patented, but we've also chosen to keep a lot of this knowledge in-house to make sure that we're the only one doing this for a while. And then basically half of our process is a drying machine. So it's the same kind of drying machine traditionally used in the paper and pulp industry to dry the pulp and press it into sheets. And that's the product, sheets of circulose. And this is the exact same product that's usually made from wood. So you take down trees and you take out the cellulose from that. We take the cellulose from textile waste instead. Sorry, jumping ahead. Looking at the waste and our raw material in our factories, obviously, as Anna gave a great introduction to that, what we do is that we buy large volumes of textile waste from sorters and collectors around the world. Anyone that has the volume and the quality sorted for what we need, which is cotton. But it's also important to note that talking about waste and the infrastructure for waste is equally as important as talking about how to recycle it. So we believe that we must reduce the amount of textiles that we produce, the overproduction and the overconsumption. We don't want to be a way for the brands or for consumers to continue this. We want to make sure that it's reduced, and once it's reduced, it's also reused. So we have the infrastructure for how to sell the clothes secondhand and to use them in other ways and remake and so forth. And then in the end, we're gonna end up with textile waste that has to go somewhere. And that's when we at Renewso want to take care of that and recycle it into a new material. This is some pictures of what the process basically looked like. This is a bale of jeans from our factory in Kristinehamn. And we shred the material, as I mentioned before, into this kind of fluff. and that goes into a chemical step where we separate the fibers in a way where we take out the cellulose and we don't in any way damage the length of the fibers or the quality of the pulp. It's the exact same as it would have been if it were made from virgin materials as wood. And then we dry that and we press that into sheets. So it's these sheets you see there on the bale that we send, and what comes out from our factory. We send that to textile fiber producers who produce the viscose fibers from that. And then it just continues in the existing production chain of new clothes. Circulose. So as I said a couple of times now, it's a dissolving pulp and is made 100% from textile waste. And then it's made into viscose fibers. What's important to note is the quality aspects of circulose. By recycling and producing the same products, the rest of the production chain doesn't have to change. And that's how we see that we can make the largest impact as fast as possible. But circulose is also a way to tell the story about circularity for the consumers. So we see that it's the consumers who really drive this demand of better materials, better production, and so on, and puts pressure on the brands to change. So circulose is a way for a consumer to walk into a store, to recognize the circulose and to understand that, okay, this material is recycled. And you intuitively know that that's better than virgin materials. And as mentioned in the beginning, the industry and the materials that we're using today are facing massive issues and have a real negative impact on the planet and on the environment. This is an LCA made. It was commissioned by Stella McCartney and it's made by a third party. Looking at the impact from polyester textile fibers, from cotton, and from viscose, where circulose was one of the scenarios, circulose viscose. And it goes to show that we reduce the land use to zero since we don't grow anything. We are not using any pesticides and we're not polluting with microplastics since it's a cellulose-based material. So that means that that's zero, and also we're using far less water. The water that we use through the process is cleaned in our water treatment plant to the extent where we can actually let it out to the river next to the plant in Kristinehamn. So that's a bit of the kind of impact reduction that circulose has. And we're, as I mentioned, at industrial scale. So we have a factory in Värmland in Kristinehamn here in Sweden, where we're producing and selling at commercial scale. We made our first launch together with H&M back in 2020. It's the blue dress you see by the pool. And we followed up with a launch together with Levi's, where they made 502s made with circulose. So they exchanged part of the cotton with viscose, which was made with circulose. And that really goes to show the quality aspects, as I was talking about before, that Levi's producing their iconic 501s using circulose, partly, and stating that it feels just like your regular pair of Levi's really goes to show that we're at a point now where you don't have to compromise on the quality or style to be able to use circular materials with circulose. And that's really what we want to achieve, to be able to shift the industry at a global scale and at a broader mass. We've also launched with the Bestseller, a Danish fashion house, and the Swedish Kappahl, and we made a jacket together with Arket also this winter. But what we're doing right now, and our main focus, is to scale up. It's what the technology of the company is founded upon, and it's it's really the vision for Renewcell is to change the fashion industry, and fashion industry it's a pretty large industry. So it means that since the problem is a volume problem, the solution has to be at scale, of course. We're building the world's largest textile chemical recycling plant right now up in Sundsvall here in Sweden. So we moved into an existing former paper mill where the SCA, our landlord, used to produce paper and pulp. They had to close down 2 years ago because of the decline in paper last couple of years. People are scrolling on their phones instead of reading magazines. And it gave us the opportunity to move into the plant. Since part of our, as I mentioned, technology is based on paper and pulp industry, we could reuse the machinery already in place. We could reuse the infrastructure, the water treatment plant, the logistics park, and so on, together with SCA, just optimizing for our raw material, basically. And what's most important is that we got the chance to rehire a lot of the people that were let go when they closed down. And these are people that have the exact experience that we need working within this kind of production and on these floors. Many of them have been working here for 20, 30 years. And that kind of experience is very difficult to find, and it's very difficult to teach. So it's been key for us to be able to get these the group of engineers and operators in to be able to scale this quickly, because we moved into the plant in 2020 and we're starting production this summer in 2022. So the plant, as I mentioned, we're reusing a lot of the parts, and also it's 100% renewable energy. The capacity of this plant is going to be 120,000 ton to start with. And that's pretty difficult to understand in volume terms, but it's around recycling 600 million t-shirts a year. So it's a massive step for us, but it's also a great step for the value chain and the circular value chain, as Anna was talking about, for the recyclers to scale, so that we make sure that the sorters and collectors have someone to sell to, and we can really together create this circular loop in the fashion industry that has been missing for forever, basically. I think that's it for me, and I look forward to your questions in the end.
Thank you, Nora. That's been really interesting. Also interesting to see that we follow the value chain, or the circling now, with your presentation after Anna's presentation, and exciting times ahead for you with the scaling up of your project. So we see each other again at the end of this webinar in the Q&A session. Just a quick reminder to all the participants, we've already received a couple of questions. You can, of course, still post them to Anna and to Nora, but also to our upcoming panelists in the chat, which you can find on the right upper corner of this GoToWebinar application. Having said this, let's move on to Finland now. After we've heard about two interesting initiatives in Sweden, we'll take a look and shed light on two Finnish projects. And Pirjo will start with that. Pirjo is already on stage. Welcome. Short introduction of Pirjo. She works as a senior scientist at VTT, the Technical Research Center of Finland. And you also work as the project coordinator of the Telaketju project. I hope I pronounced it more or less correctly. Please tell me how it's pronounced in the right way. And Telaketju is a cooperation network. It aims to advance the topic of textile recycling. And the network also enables the development of business models related to the discussed circular economy. So very exciting topic. Pirjo, we are very much looking forward to your presentation, and the stage is yours.
Thank you, Lisa, for your kind introduction. So yes, I'm Pirjo Heikkilä from VTT, Technical Research Center Finland, which is kind of large, multidisciplinary research center for technologies innovation in Finland. We are focusing on these sustainability solutions as well, and therefore this textile recycling and textile circular economy topics are very much in the core of what we do, for example, here. I have been working with Telaketju for a long time, and I have asked you, can you tell about Telaketju project? And then I have to say, Telaketju is not only a project, so it's a kind of active network of different kind of actors who are dealing with textiles in the production or use or now in recycling, and then this kind of network has kind of common goal for more sustainable production, use and cycles of textiles. And it's also kind of research work, so we have had multiple projects which have been kind of laying foundation for this more circular textile business and in Finland. And our network has been very active. So now we heard a couple of examples of Sysav and Renewcell. So in our network, we also have very many actors and companies who are doing many kind of new innovation, new building, new infrastructure for the topics. There are separate collection of textile waste coming to all EU countries, and within our network there have been actors who have been building national collection system for textiles in Finland that is already kind of planned, and collecting pilots are ongoing in covering all major cities in Finland. There are mechanical processing facility built to Paimio, which is a collaboration between municipal operator and commercial actors, because in Finland we have this kind of shared responsibility of waste. So municipalities need to deal with household textile waste and commercial actors of this kind of commercial textile waste. So they build a processing plant together so that they can do collaboration and learn from each other and have kind of benefits from synergy. There are also flagship plant to be built for chemical recycling of cotton. So we have a spin-off company from VTT, Infinity Fiber Company, who is also recycling cotton fibers and making them directly into fibers. So something similarities with the Renewcell, but also including fiber spinning process. And then there are, for example, in our Finnish Textile and Fashion Association for the textile industries, they are having this national webinar series for Finnish actors so that we can share information. So we have very active network with the companies and different activities. But what I'm going to kind of more focused on is this research, because that is something I have been coordinating and been involved in for many years. So this is kind of a timeline. At VTT, I started work with textile recycling topics in 2015 with the Relooping Fashion initiative, where we make a model how the circular textile ecosystems would look like, and also made take this cotton recycling process from lab to pilot scale, which is now kind of used by Infinity Fiber Company. There was also another activity, Textile 2.0, going on between Municipal Waste Management Organization of Southwestern Finland and local University of Applied Sciences in Turku. And together, when we put our kind of resources together, we started this kind of large activity called Telaketju. And you can see here kind of history. First stage in 2017 and 19, we had several projects funded, also station weights in 2019 and 21, and now we are in the kind of third phase. So I will go through that. But in the bottom of the slide, you can see these multiple logos of different stages, and I have still need to add in the next time I have to give this presentation also the new companies involved in this new TelaValue project. But kind of history, how we moved on. In the first stage, we really focused on how to build this recycling system. So from collecting to sorting, refining, and exploitation, how to end use these recycled materials. And we had this Telaketju as kind of umbrella at that time. We had funding from Ministry of Environmental Affairs, because in textile sector there are so many actors, municipalities, charities, reuse centers, and these kind of activities who are not able to get funding, which is available through Business Finland, which is similar to Vinnova in Sweden for the Swedish. So kind of because Business Finland, like said in the name, they are focused on business, but they are also environmental issues. So we were kind of happy to have parallel projects funded by different funding agencies in order to be able to involve all necessary partners, also other funding agencies for this recycling plant, early development for that. And in this first stage, with the two first projects, we really focused on the building a value chain for recycling. And after these two projects, we had made these trials for separate collection and also hand sorting. We made the cost modeling and risk management evaluation, and also risk management guidelines for textile recycling, and also lots of different kind of material and product demonstrations. This is public research, so the results are available in result reports which are written in English. So we have also made multiple publications in Finnish, but the overall final reports of the research projects are available in English. In the second phase, we had there also this refinement plant activity was going on, and the next this kind of co-innovation project, which is the project type of Business Finland, where there are public projects and then company projects. That was kind of second of which I was coordinating. And in that, we kind of widened our scope. We had a different kind of not only recycling actors, but also other type of companies involved in kind of manufacturers and brands, but also this kind of clothing libraries, a new type of business model users in kind of coming a new sustainable textile business side. So as shown here, we moved from just recycling in the kind of wider circular economy scope. We studied business models, this kind of new business models, product as a service, and so on, which aim for more longer product lifetime. We studied what kind of sustainable materials are available. We also looked on product design for make more sustainable products. We of course continued supporting recycling activities and what were still kind of research questions related to that. And then we studied sustainability and how to kind of calculate and also interpret this LCA or social cost analysis. We updated our economic model for recycling to better understand the economics from there. We continued making multiple trials and demonstrations, and we also carried out consumer studies in order to understand how consumers react on recycling all these new business models. And after this, these Telaketju 2 projects, we included kind of knowledge of these new circular economy business models and consumer attitudes. We had the handbook for designers, for more sustainable products, reviews of different kind of sustainable materials, and we also, for example, studied the role of information and product data in circular economy, made a vision and roadmap for our textile sector. Again, our report is available for all of you in English. And now, as a kind of third phase of our activities, we have now again several things going on. We have this kind of smaller study products as a service pilots. So how to kind of test new type of operating and providing products as a service instead of selling them. And the large one, Tela Value, Business Finland Co-Innovation Project, we changed the name a little bit, not anymore Telaketju, but Tela Value, and then I explained why, which started in February this year. But again, there are refinement plant investment project going on by Lounais-Suomen jätehuolto, the municipal organization, and also other kind of company activities. And in this Tela Value project, we are now focusing on value, firstly, through value chains. So we are trying to support production value chain coming back to Finland. We have recycled raw materials coming from this earlier Telaketju ecosystem and network, but there are lots of research activities have been going on in Finland for bio-based raw materials, so new type of bio-based fibers and so on. And we try to kind of understand, can there be new production value chains in textile production based on the kind of combined raw materials from new bio-based and recycled fibers. We are continuing studying these kind of more sustainable product use and business models. And then we are at another value chain we are trying to support and with our research is this recovery value chain, so recycling value chain from collecting, sorting to pre-processing and fiber opening. And we are studying not only recycling back to textile applications, but also other high value applications. We have obtained very interesting results of how to make high value composites, for example, from the side streams of technical textile production that is very strong still in Finland, while this kind of textile and clothing manufacturing is quite small at the moment. Hopefully we also get kind of larger textile production in Finland once we get these new bio-based fibers and recycled fibers in the markets. This new Tela Value, so just started in February, continued until early 2024. It contains 17 companies co-funding and also 6 company projects in addition to this public research work. So that's my share, and I'm waiting for your questions at the end of the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Pirjo, for your presentation. Very interesting to see how many stakeholders are involved and how complex the whole topic of sustainable textile developments is actually. So a last reminder to post your questions in the chat function. Last reminder, because we're now heading on to our last panelist. Last but finally, but definitely not least, Oskari, please join me on stage. Hello. Oskari, I will quickly introduce you to the audience. Oskari is R&D, Sales and Customer Relationship Manager at Nordic Bioproducts. And Nordic Bioproducts has also a very interesting initiative going on with a plant-based textile fiber called Neuratex. And we are very much looking forward to your presentation and what you can tell us about your project. Stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you for kind introduction. Hello, my name is Oskari, and I'm here to represent our new textile innovation, Neuratex. But first, maybe a little bit about our company. We are Nordic Bioproducts Group, and we are a startup spin-off from Aalto University, and we are commercializing new smart biotechnologies and bioproducts. We are founded in 2019 by our 2 founders. Here you can see them, Professor Olli Dahl and Senior Commercializing Officer from Aalto University, Olli Kähkönen. And the company was founded by these 2 founders, 1 angel investor and huge technology partner, Andritz. Currently, we are 12 12 entrepreneurs in the company, and we have backgrounds from business, engineering, chemical engineering, and designers. Our mission is to create impact to the world with biotechnology. We want to think beyond pulp and paper and create more value from our raw materials, what we are currently using, especially in Finland. We have a strong pulp and papering industries. To create this social, economical, and environmental impacts, we work in different areas. We have food sector, we have plastics, and then we have textiles. And here in this presentation, I will focus on our textile innovation, Norratex. As mentioned in the previous presentations, quite a lot. There is the textile problem in the world is a very big one. It consumes lots of water, and a very minimal amount of the textiles are recycled. And we want to tackle this problem with our own solution and technology. Our Norratex technology's mission is to be environmental and to have an environmental and social impact. Our technology is carbon disulfide free and doesn't use any ionic liquids. And we are currently scaling up of the process, and then our process is possible to integrate into the pulp mill or with the viscose plant. We also have a circular solution in the Norratex. We use craft paper pulp as raw material, but we have already made initiative tests that we can use also recycled textiles as our raw material also. Here you can see a little comparison of our technology compared to traditional viscose process. As you can see, because we don't use carbon disulfide, we don't need to have carbon disulfide recovery and some of pre-processes before wet spinning. Our process is a bit more simplified, but when we get to the wet spinning part, it's similar than viscose process. That's why it can be integrated to traditional viscose plant. And also we can integrate this to the pulp mill, where we don't have to then dry the pulp before enter it in the dissolving stage, meaning there's an environmental impact because we don't have to use energy for drying the pulp. Our Norratex story, it's quite young still, but we have achieved very much within 1.5 years. We made the first dissolution tests in beginning of 2021. And during the summer of 21, we made our first wet spinning tests. And in the end of last year, we made our first yarn and first knitted samples. So within a year, from the first dissolution test, we had our first fabrics. The experts in the industry, they have tried our material. They have said it has a cotton plus viscose, between cotton and viscose feeling, closer to cotton. We have made just preliminary dyeability tests, but the people who have done the dyeability, they said there has not been no problems with it. The technical aspects of the fiber, we are still analyzing them because we are still at very early stages with our technology, so we don't have yet very accurate technical data. But our aim is to produce fibers to textiles, nonwovens, and also this technology can produce biofilms to replace plastics. Our key strengths in the very competitive market is that we don't use these toxic chemicals like carbon disulfide or any ionic liquids, and all of chemicals are recyclable, and they're very common already pulp industry and viscose industry. We can utilize kraft paper pulp as a raw material, and with our technology, we can use dissolving pulp and kraft pulp as a raw material, which broadens the raw material spectrum. Our technology uses already existing technologies and equipment, so it doesn't need lots of new innovation anymore. In business side, we are very cost effective because we don't use these really hazardous chemicals which would need really difficult chemical recovery. And we are currently now, as I said, scaling up our process to get forward in our project. Our key focus currently is to find facility, because we have our own wet spinning line, but it's really small. We want to now scale up to get more fibers, to get more information about how our process could scale up. Improve our technical properties of our fiber. And then when we are able to produce more fiber, we can send them to brands and customers to test them. We are currently building the value chain where we can have raw material suppliers, then we have the technology, then we have the end users. So we are seeking partners to every sector. And when we have found these partners, we want to onboard them and start building the next phases, scaling up, and how we're gonna improve the fibers to meet the customer needs. So here in short, and then thanks for listening and really, really waiting for your questions and happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you to Oskari for your presentation, for interesting presentation. Please remain on stage. You can leave your camera on, and I would also like to ask the other panelists to join me on stage for our Q&A session. You still have the possibility to add some more questions to our chat, but we have also received quite a lot of questions already, and seems like we have reached the right target group because the questions are quite specific. So we found the Austrian experts in the textile industry here. So let's start with the first question. Let's start with Nora. How do you sort the staple length of the fibers, or are the fiber lengths processed together? Quite specific question already.
For the raw material that we bring in?
I guess so, yes. Question did not specify.
Yeah. So we recycle any cotton textiles as long as it has a high cotton value. So currently we can take a 98% cotton and separate out 2% of polyester or elastane. But in the next factory that we're building and opening this summer, we're going to be able to lower that to 90% so that we can separate out a 10% of plastic fibers.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you very much. One question that was asked during your presentation, Oskari, regarding polyester recycling, how well can polyester be recycled, especially when it comes to the new yarns made from recycled polyester fibers?
We have made 1 or 2 preliminary tests where we have used our technology we put in a cotton and polyester blend, and we could successfully separate the cotton from the polyester. We don't have exact numbers with which efficiency, but the results were really good. And in that test we used, if I remember correctly, it had over 20% polyester. So if this answers the question, I hope I understood the question correctly.
Perfect, thank you. I will continue with another question for you. You said in your slide, Noratex in competition that Norratex enables the reestablishment of large-scale fiber production. Do you have certain countries or companies in mind that you would like to work with in this stage?
We have in our mind who are we aiming at, and we have discussions already going, but cannot go more deeper at who we are discussing. Who are we discussing right now? Unfortunately.
Okay. Then let's move on with another question. Pirjo, during these different stages of the project, have you seen that completely new jobs or training programs have been created?
If training programs kind of refers to education in about textile in Finland, so actually, to my knowledge, there is now starting a new education on university for textile, and there are strong focus on circular economy topics, and also this bio-based materials, just like Oskari told us. And there are also training programs from Finnish textile and fashion for the companies.
Okay, thank you. Then let's move on to another question to Nora again. To Nora from Renewcell. What is the environmental impact of the chemicals used in the process, and can these be recycled as well? Were these also considered in the LCA conducted?
Yeah, so the LCA was based off the production that we have in Kristinehamn right now. And for the chemicals, we don't disclose them due to the patent and IP of that. But what we can say is that it's traditional chemicals used in paper and pulp industry. It's really the way that we use it and the way that we pulp that makes it different. But since we are producing right now in Sweden, we're highly regulated to what chemicals we can use. So it's nothing new there. And in terms of chemicals, that they're used throughout the process. So it's nothing that we let out from the factory.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to Anna then. Are you looking for international partners to team up with, and which company would be your absolute dream partner in the future?
We have a lot of strong partners in the consortium already, so I believe that. And we just yesterday we announced a big partnership with recyclers in with the Recovertex, but of course Renewcell being one of our strongest partners. I'm not sure what our dream partner would be.
Maybe you found it already among our panelists. Okay, thank you for this answer. Nora, and the question to you, how many times can you recycle items, as the lengths of fibers are normally reduced when recycled?
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's exactly what has been the problem in the past when you mechanically recycle, is that the fiber lengths are reduced. But so we've done lab tests. We haven't recycled our own clothes yet. Hopefully we won't for many years to come. But what we've done in lab, we can see that we can recycle circulose up to 7 times without losing any quality, which is the same as, for example, the paper industry. So up to 7 times.
Another question to you. How much post-consumer waste versus pre-consumer waste do you get from collectors?
We don't have the exact range of that. We've worked with both post-consumer waste and industrial waste, and we're now moving into the kind of volumes where we're not gonna track really how the range of it. The most important part is that we get the textile waste that we need, and that it can't be used in any other way, whether that is industrial or post-consumer.
Okay. And one more question. Do you also plan to sell rovings from the cellulose, not only for textile use?
Yeah, so it can be used for other applications as well. I mean, we've done different trials and tests and so on, but right now we're focusing on the fashion industry and textiles in the fashion industry. So, I mean, once that's solved, definitely we'll look into other industries as well. But I think we have a couple of years to go.
Thank you. One other question to Pirjo. What have been the most significant changes in textile business that you have experienced during the different project phases?
Well, the starting to build up this value chain for textile recovery, and which was not existing before, that has been the kind of main change. And also I have noticed that textile companies, the brands, Finnish brands, and also this have been more active in more sustainable products and also new models, and these new type of companies, loading libraries and kind of emerging of these completely new type of companies have been very interesting to see in last years, and maybe more of those will be coming also in coming years.
Thank you very much. And I have one last question, which I think is addressed to Nora again. Do you sell Circulore, I think it's Circulose, also to acetate producers?
We haven't done that. We've produced viscose fibers only from Circulose.
Okay, and there's one last question coming in. In the last moment, question for Anna. How are buttons, etc., removed before sorting the textiles for reproduction? Manually?
We don't do any dezippering or debuttoning at our plants, so that step is left for the recyclers to do. We only sort.
Okay. So let me just quickly check if I have not forgotten or overseen any question. So I think that was it for now. A lot of questions from the audience showing the large interest in your projects and initiatives. So thank you very much for joining our webinar today. We've learned a lot of new things. It's been very interesting hearing what you in Finland and Sweden are doing. Also many thanks to you in front of the screens at the moment for your participation and the many questions you entered. If you have any further questions or would like to reach out to one of our panelists, please feel free to contact our offices in Helsinki or Stockholm, or of course the panelists directly. Please also not forget to fill out the feedback form on this webinar. It will be sent out shortly. Your opinions matter a lot because it helps us with the planning of our upcoming events and webinars. And having said this, I'd like to thank you all once again for sharing your knowledge. And having said this, let's see the end of this webinar as the beginning of an exchange. And thank you and goodbye from Stockholm.